Hey everybody, before this video begins, I just wanted to let you know that there actually is no video for this. John and I record these podcasts through Zoom, and our internet, I guess when we recorded this that night, was just not very good. And so for my recording, my video looked fine, his video looked like garbage, and so he sent me his recording, and his video looked fine, and then my video looked like garbage. I tried to make it work with both videos, but our audio and video just kept getting out of sync as it went on. It was just a nightmare. So, unfortunately, no video for this episode, but you can listen to it, obviously, just like every other video or every other episode, and you can find it on, through podcast apps. But next time we should have a video, so I apologize for that. We're also looking into maybe not using Zoom, using something else. Maybe something a little bit more reliable in terms of recording. So anyway, without further ado, here is the Lost World episode. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
Today we're talking about The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Released in 1997, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by David Koepp from the novel by Michael Crichton, and starring Jeff Goldblum, Julianne Moore, Vince Vaughn, Arliss Howard, Pete Postlethwaite, Richard Attenborough, Vanessa Chester, Peter Stormare, Richard Schiff, and Arliss Howard. Did I say his name already? Not sure.
I was getting my computer set up. So.
Cool.
Did you say it?
I don't know. I said it at the end. I can't remember if I said it twice though.
Hey, we know. I was gonna say we do know that you've at least said it once.
That's right.
That's what matters.
He is in this movie. So this was obviously the follow-up, the first of 4 so far sequels to Jurassic Park, and I was very excited about this movie, obviously, Jurassic Park being pretty much a life-changing movie for me. And saw it in the theater. I actually it wasn't until I was rewatching the movie tonight for the podcast that I realized I did see this movie more than once in the theater. I may have only seen it twice, but I know I saw it a second time because I have a story that I'll tell when we get there. But I did see it, and I loved it at the time. I was, 97? I was 13 probably when it came out. So, yeah, liked it a lot. It was Jurassic Park. It was more dinosaurs, more than one T-Rex in the movie, so I was pretty happy. You saw this in the theater, I assume? Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
I mean, it was but the sequel to Jurassic Park.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely saw it in the theater. I was super stoked about it, but I don't really remember that much, honestly, about the hype for it. Like I can't really remember being excited about it.
Well, I'll tell you what
I remember being excited when we were going to the theater. I was going to go see The Lost World.
Yeah.
But that's about all I remember.
I remember the first piece of footage I saw for it was a Super Bowl commercial. And I probably was only watching because I had no interest in football really as a kid. Still don't really have a whole lot of interest in football. But I was watching the Super Bowl. And I might have just been watching it for the commercials, and I remember seeing the Super Bowl ad for The Lost World. And I think that was the first bit of footage I saw for The Lost World. And I remember being like, oh my... The tagline was, something has survived or something, and it was... It didn't show a whole lot. I think there was, I remember it being... There was, lightning, and it says, something, and then you might have saw a quick, clip of something, and then it says has, and then... maybe a little something else, and then survived, and then it cut to Ian Malcolm, and I'm pretty sure it was where he goes, "Mommy's very angry," and then you probably saw a T-Rex and a couple other quick things, and then that was it, But that was enough. I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
I would imagine that they didn't spoil that there were 2 T-Rexes in this movie in the trailers, but I could be wrong.
I don't
remember.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know either. But in that one, I'm sure that trailer's on YouTube. I could look it up, but I don't think they showed that there were 2, but they might have. I can't remember.
It would have been a dumb decision if they had. 'Cause
I agree. All they needed to show
reveal
was
that
just
in the
one.
theater.
Yeah.
Just one roar. The last shot, roar of the T-Rex. That's the end of the trailer. Or teaser, I guess, is what it would have been.
So this was based off a book by Michael Crichton, just like the first movie. But unlike the first book, I have actually not read this book. Have you read The Lost World?
I've only read half of Jurassic Park.
Oh, wow.
I read that half of it when I was in high school. And I have not read The Lost World. So.
I've read Jurassic Park a couple of times. It's a very good book. And this one, I remember hearing when this movie came out that the writer, David Koepp, I believe is how you pronounce his name, was like, he got the book from Michael Crichton or whatever. It was like, cool. And then just tossed it out and wrote his own movie. So I don't know, because I've heard that the movie is completely different than the book. And so I've always wanted to read The Lost World, and I've got it sitting on my shelf. I just haven't done it yet. Haven't gotten around to it. So
now might be good motivation to do it.
It might be, yeah. I thought about it while I was watching.
Because I'm curious, especially since you mentioned that it's different. That really piqued my interest to read it.
Yeah, and I know. Well, there's a question I have, and I thought maybe you could answer this question, but it spoils part of the first book. And since you haven't read it,
I do know that if it's about Hammond, is it about Hammond?
It's actually about Malcolm.
Okay, then I don't know, and don't tell me.
Okay. Then I'll keep my mouth shut.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't. There's a question about that I guess will just remain unanswered. You wouldn't know the answer anyway since you haven't read the book. So, but I do like that the sequel follows Malcolm rather than Alan Grant or Alan and Ellie. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a cool choice to go with Ian Malcolm for the sequel.
And so I actually wrote a ton of notes for this. And my first note that I wrote was about Ian. I loved his introduction.
Yeah.
So you have the island, and you've got the tourists,
right.
The rich family tourists that are there, and you have the daughter that gets, which I assumed died, but they later,
said
shortly after,
fine.
go on to explain that, yeah, she's okay.
That's actually...
I mean, she's obviously not okay, but
right.
she's
traumatized,
alive.
I suppose. That's a scene that's actually that was a scene that was actually in the first book. So it wasn't a rich family like that, but it was the first Jurassic Park book kind of opens with a family on vacation and a little girl who discovers compies like that. So they changed it a little bit, but I guess there's a couple of moments.
Was it on the same island? What's the name of this island?
This island is, so I've always been confused how you pronounce Isla. I've always thought it was Isla, like island, but without the ND. And that's how John Hammond pronounces it in the movie. But other people pronounce it Isla. So anyway,
that's what I've always heard.
Isla. That's how I'll say it then. Isla Sorna is this island. Isla Nublar is the island from the first movie.
Uh-huh.
So I can't remember. It's been a while since I read the book. I don't remember if they came across it was some part of Costa Rica. It was kind of, I don't know. So the idea was I guess in the beginning of Jurassic Park, the book, and I'll have to reread this book too. Maybe some of the dinosaurs had already kind of gotten off a little bit the island. I don't know. I don't remember, but there's a girl in the. Yeah. That's just I just thought it was interesting how they took a scene from the first book and put it in this movie.
Well, it made sense doing it in this movie with the way that the story went.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of anyway. So I loved how they transitioned to your introduction to Ian, and he's on the beach.
Right.
Your immediate thought is, because it cuts from that, and he's got palm trees behind him and a nice blue cloudy sky, and you're like, he's there at the accident, and he's yawning.
Right.
Why? But then he walks away, and now you're in the city,
mm-hmm.
which is somewhere we have never been in a Jurassic Park movie.
Right, that's true.
So I loved that, and that was very intentional when you watch it.
I also love the sound work in that, how she goes from the woman screaming, and it's like her scream kind of dissolves into the screeching of the subway, brakes or whatever.
Right. So that was the first note that I took.
Well, let's stick with the subway scene, because I really like how they set it up as, and they go into a little bit further detail once Malcolm goes to John Hammond's house and he's talking to Arliss Howard, who is John Hammond's nephew. Character name is Peter Ludlow. But they you could just see it in the train where the guy comes up to him and he's like, "You're the guy, right?" And he's like, "I believed you." You just get the sense that Ian Malcolm came out and told people about this island of dinosaurs, and everybody assumed he was crazy. And then it shows
apparently
the women
he did it on
staring at him.
TV. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
apparently
he
did it on TV.
Went on TV, talked about Jurassic Park, the island, and how it killed people, and
dinosaurs were chasing us.
Yeah, they're like
T-Rex. I saw a T-Rex eat someone. Yeah.
Okay, pal.
They're like, "Where's this island again?"
Right.
No one knows where. No one's been there before, but it's over here. But anyway,
I swear there's dinosaurs there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
so I kind of like that.
So they kept the time frame of as how long had since the
4 years in between movies, 4 years in between the events. Yeah. Yep.
What did you think of Hammond and his plan? His plan to go do this.
I totally understand why he would want to send people there to observe the animals and just kind of get scientific research. I mean, but at the same time, I guess part of it was there were some mysteries that he wanted solved, like the lysine deficiency they were talking about. In the first movie, they had the lysine contingency where if they don't give him this dose of lysine, then eventually they slip into a coma and die. Well, these dinosaurs clearly aren't doing that. They are thriving on this island, living, without human interaction and all that. And at first I thought they were just going to have it be like there was no answer to that. Because, I hadn't thought about it, and I hadn't, it's been a little while since I've watched this movie, and Malcolm asked that question. He's like, "Oh, I thought you made these dinosaurs lysine deficient, and shouldn't they have just died?" And Hammond was like, "Yes, they should have. We don't know why." And I thought that was going to be just kind of we don't know. That's the whole answer. And I was like, that's kind of cheap. But then Sarah goes into later, the explanation of it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. They do answer it. But
remind me again what the answer was.
The answer was the herbivores.
Herbivores.
The herbivores were eating very lysine heavy plants. There was a lot of plants. There were certain types of plants that they were eating that were lysine heavy, and then the carnivores eat the herbivores, and there you go.
Get the lysine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also agree with Malcolm in this scene.
I remember laughing really hard when she was like, they were going to go see the dinosaurs, and she was like, "I found out why they're surviving without the lysine." He was like, "I don't care," because he was that was when he was trying to convince her. Yeah, I loved that line. It was, but
Malcolm has a bunch of great lines in the movie, and this and one of my favorites is the one that I was about to say, which is I agree with Malcolm in that scene though, which is John Hammond kind of laughs and he's like, I won't make the same mistake again, and he goes, "No, you're making all new ones."
Yes.
I definitely agree with him. I just think sending people to the island is just a stupid idea to begin with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I totally understand why he would want to do that. I feel like Hammond is a curious person by nature, and
I agree, but to me, it really made me upset because I felt like after everything that went through with Jurassic Park and seeing Hammond, 50 times in the original movie, this was probably the fourth time I've seen this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was mad at him. I'm like, it's only been 4 years, and you were traumatized. You watched your grandchildren almost die, and now you're talking like a psycho.
Right. Yeah,
and I didn't like it. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil this for you because I want to see your reaction.
Okay.
Like I said, this is the fourth time I've seen this movie, and I think this viewing I might have hated this movie more than I have ever hated it, and I
really?
do not like this movie whatsoever.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to do Jurassic Park 3. And if you say you like Jurassic Park 3, then we might have to just stop doing the podcast. Because I just don't know if I could handle that.
So I remember before watching this,
Yeah.
thinking 3 is awful, and Lost World. You knew I told you. I don't know if you remember.
I knew you disliked it. Yeah.
But watching it this time, I had the thought when it was going off. I was like, I think 3 might actually be a better movie than Lost World.
Well, that's terrible, John, and I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, I mean it's
just wait till you hear my wait till you hear how many
yes.
stars I give it.
Oh God, I'm nervous now. I mean I can give you I'll give you my little spoiler reaction to it, which is I still really enjoy this movie. I don't think it's obviously it's not nearly as good as the first movie. Nothing will really touch the first movie. And out of all of the Jurassic Park sequels, I think it is my favorite. I've only seen Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom one time each, so maybe I need to rewatch both of those. But
interesting.
But yeah, I do.
I wrote down another note during that Hammond and Malcolm exchange of I thought the dinosaurs were grown on Isla Nublar.
Yeah, I mean that's how it's perceived. You know, because when you were watching when they're on the like little ride, seeing like Mr. DNA and stuff, you see the eggs hatching and you see the animals and everything. So yeah, it is implied in that first movie that they are grown. However, I thought about it this viewing because he talks about how they raise the animals on the other island and then they bring them over to Isla Nublar. The very first scene of Jurassic Park is them with a full-grown raptor in a cage, putting him in the...
That's a good... Well, but is he coming from, like, where they, raise them?
It's never
you
said.
could look at it either way. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I kind of was thinking about it tonight, and I was thinking, you know what? That scene kind of makes sense. Like, maybe they were bringing that animal from Isla Sorna to Isla Nublar, and that was, a full-grown raptor. They were putting it in the raptor pen, and of course there was an accident. Right. So maybe they hatch a couple of them at the park for that, I was going to say for that kind of, introductory experience you get when you get to the park and watch that little video and stuff.
Right.
But I don't know. It's a good question.
Now, if I actually liked Lost World, I would argue that could be the case. But I don't care about Lost World, so I'm just going to say, and the eggs is, that's where they grow them. And Lost World doesn't even exist in my mind.
That's funny. So basically, if I'm getting this right, you treat this movie how I treat Terminator 3.
I would imagine that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
But like I said, this is like the 4th time I have seen this movie, so I couldn't remember like a lot about it and what my feelings were about it. And I will say that to me, jumping ahead a little bit, it was the last 30 minutes of the film. There were a couple good moments here and there throughout, but the last 30 minutes of the film to me were horrendous.
So you don't like any of the San Diego stuff?
Oh, it's awful. And to me, I felt like Steven Spielberg left the movie and they had a fill-in come and just take over because it was so much cringe every second. Oh, it's hurting my head just thinking about it right now.
There's one moment of cringe that I have with the San Diego scene, and I'll explain that when we get there. But to be honest with you, the San Diego stuff is actually my favorite stuff of the movie.
Wow.
My
favorite scene is the velociraptors in the tall grass.
I do love that scene too. That scene's pretty awesome.
Actually, that was some good stuff. I did like that. That when you you get the far off shot where you see the trails of you see the people walking, and then and you see the the
And then you
raptors
see
coming
the,
from
like-
all different directions.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, with their tails. Then
that's an amazing shot. And I love how, Ajay is like yelling, like, don't go into the tall grass. He's like, don't go into the tall grass, even though he's going in with them. But he knows that, like, this is not a good place where we want to be. And I don't know why he knows that exactly. He's not like a dinosaur expert, but I probably just from his whole, I got the impression that he and Roland were a pretty close team, and so he has probably been on a lot of hunting expeditions with Roland, and probably just knows that predators maybe hang out in the tall grass and stuff like that.
Yeah, supposedly he and Roland were like best buds and like had a long friendship. So
yeah.
But yeah, and then that shot where you first see the raptor jumping at that guy. Like, he actually jumps out of the grass and you see the talons. And that was a really cool shot, too.
Yeah, I like that, too.
That's really, I think, about the only thing I liked about the movie.
Wow.
So,
the first note I wrote, it goes back before they even leave to go to the island. And I wrote that Ian Malcolm is not a great dad. And obviously that is kind of established, throughout the dialogue and stuff. But I wrote, he didn't even check to see. So he makes plans with a woman named Karen to watch his daughter. And, Kelly is complaining. She's like, I don't even know this woman. And he's like, sure you do. Karen, you guys will have fun, go to the movies or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, I wrote, he doesn't even check to see if Kelly was even at Karen's before he left. He just he tells his daughter, you're going to go with Karen, and then they leave. And she is able to go with him because he does absolutely doesn't call Karen, doesn't see Kelly off to make sure that she goes to Karen's. Just
right. I'll be back in a couple weeks. Here's my phone number.
See ya. Right. Yes.
They didn't have cell phones at that time.
No,
well, I
satellite
guess they
phones.
did, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember thinking that too, that she just happened to get on there and he didn't find out until she pops out and's like, I made food.
Right. I was going to make dinner for you guys. Yeah. I will say that Kelly, I feel like maybe they I don't know why they decided to include a kid, maybe to raise the stakes a little bit, give Malcolm something. Malcolm goes to the island to rescue his girlfriend, but maybe having his kid there gives him, kind of raises the stakes for him a little bit. But Kelly is probably my least favorite part of the whole movie.
Well, the worst part of her was the gymnastics
part. Yeah,
scene.
I hate that scene.
Oh.
Yeah. That is cringe. I will give you that. That I hate that scene. That is the worst part of The Lost World, in my opinion.
It's up there. You might be right. I might agree with you on that. I wrote down that the capturing scene was good, where the hunters first come and are chasing down the dinosaurs. I liked that. So the first time you see dinosaurs though with Sarah,
right?
That looked really bad.
Yeah, the special effects are not nearly as good as they were in Jurassic Park, and I don't understand why that is. You would think that it would be the same. I assume it was ILM, the same company that did the first one. You would think that it would be even better than it was in the first movie. 4 years have gone by, but maybe I don't know. But yeah, they are noticeably
I think there were more mixing of CGI and animatronics in the original, and when this movie came out, this is just an assumption, but when this movie came out, they were like, we've got higher power computers. I think we can maybe focus a little bit more on the CGI, and it just wasn't even close to being ready at that time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, thankfully, they do still use some animatronics, but I will say, I didn't.
They look worse too.
Well, part of it is I think that
one that she's, what is it, a stegosaurus that she's petting?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that it's because the CGI is not great in that stegosaurus scene. Then she sees this baby stegosaurus that is obviously an animatronic. It was glaringly obvious that it was an animatronic after seeing the bad CGI. Almost, it was kind of weird.
That's true. Yeah, to me, it almost felt like it was it looks like kind of what they look like on the Universal Studios ride.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, it even kind of moved that way. You could just tell it was an animatronic. Yeah, it wasn't.
And there was never an instance like that in the original Jurassic Park ever.
Right. No, I agree. No, that's true.
Like every dinosaur movement in the original Jurassic Park, animatronic or not. I mean, the CGI now is dated, but we were talking about it. And I've gone back and seen, Jurassic Park within the past year. And the CGI, though you can tell it's CGI, it just still looks amazing when you think that it came out in 93. Yeah. And this CGI was immediately like, ugh. So.
Right. Yeah, I will agree with that. The first shot of the dinosaurs, which is supposed to be kind of this magical shot, it's supposed to be kind of reminiscent of the Brachiosaurus shot when Alan Grant first gets to the island and everything. And because you see Eddie and you see Nick Van Owen, Vince Vaughn's character, you see them kind of in awe of these animals, but it just doesn't look that good. So it doesn't have nearly the same impact, obviously.
Now in '97, it probably looked amazing.
It probably looked pretty good. Yeah, it probably did. But now it's, and like you said, when you go back and watch Jurassic Park, you can kind of tell certain scenes, like the CGI is noticeable, but it still looks really good, even by today's standards.
Right.
And this one, I don't think looks good by today's standards. It's pretty noticeable.
Right.
Not all the CGI, but that scene in particular, I think, is definitely pretty noticeable.
Yeah, the what are the small ones called?
The compies. I don't know their full name, but yeah.
They look good a lot of the time, I thought.
Yeah. And a lot of those were animatronic. Not always, but obviously, like, when Dieter's, like, pulling him off of his body and stuff, like, those were, I'm pretty sure, animatronic.
Right. But there was, like, a scene where they were, like, running after him.
Yeah.
And
those look pretty good.
Those look really good. Yeah. I wasn't, so...
And I feel like most of the T-Rex stuff looks pretty good. The adult T-Rex stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I guess that's where a lot of the money went. They were like, well, now we got a budget for 2 T-Rexes.
Mr. Spielberg, we don't have any money left over for the Stegosaurus. That'll be fine. Just do what you can.
They'll be sitting in the movie theater still, I promise. Just get them to the T-Rex.
Right. Nobody's going to walk out after seeing the bad CG for the Stegosaurus. I do like that we got to see some dinosaurs that were not in Jurassic Park, like the Stegosaurus. That's one of them. And then some of the other ones, I'm not going to know any of the dinosaur names, but like Elvis, that was, I did like that.
Which one?
Pete Postlethwaite. It's the dinosaur that has like the he says the pompadour. It's the
the Apatosaurus.
Is that what it's? Sure.
I believe it's an Apatosaurus. I believe.
I like that Pete Postlethwaite's character, Roland, is trying to like get the dinosaur names. He's got like the little laminated sheets that he's looking at. And then he finally just calls, he's like, the one with the bald spot, Friar Tuck, and eventually he throws out the book completely.
Now that one I called the Bonehead, so I don't know the actual name for that one.
I don't know either. But we didn't see either of those dinosaurs in the first movie, so it was kind of cool. And I like that scene with the, when the InGen people first show up and they're driving the Jeeps and everything. I did have the thought that, you see those kind of Jeep, they're not Jeeps, but those Humvee type vehicles, and they have like the guys that can slide out, so that they can shoot. And they have I don't know what you call it, but those chairs, the seats that come out to the side of the vehicle. Watching it this time, I thought, I wonder if this was an idea they had for the movie, or if this was an attempt to sell more toys. Because I'm almost positive I had some toys that, like, even with the first movie, I think maybe the seats like kind of maybe came out, or maybe it was a Lost World toy, but I feel like I remember having a toy where like the seat came, like the gunner seat came out like that.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised. Sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Universal, Spielberg hopefully would push back on this somewhat, because I feel like he would have the power to. But I wouldn't be surprised if Universal said, hey, you should include some more dinosaurs in this movie, and you should include some more like vehicles and stuff, so that way we can sell some more toys, more merchandise.
Right. This was definitely a time period where that was heavily on their mind. It's around the time that Batman Forever and Batman and Robin came out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a big time era for film selling toys to kids.
Joel Schumacher even went on record saying that Batman and Robin, like the whole reason they changed costumes in the last act of the movie and stuff like that was just to sell toys.
Yep.
So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case because they made a lot of Jurassic Park toys, and so I don't really recall. I know they made some Lost World toys, but I don't really remember a whole lot of them. I feel like I remember Nick Van Owen having an action figure, so I feel like they did definitely make some Lost World toys.
I also didn't realize how critical the critics were on this until pulling it up to watch it. Like I think it has like a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I would actually be, I meant to look that up myself, and I'm going to do it right now because I am curious what the critics thought of all of the sequels. All right, so Jurassic Park has a 91%. The Lost World has a 50%.
That's lower than it should be.
I agree. Lost World has a 53%, so it is pretty low. Jurassic Park 3 has a 49%. That's actually a little too close to the Lost World in my opinion.
Liking.
Yeah, for my liking. Thank you. Jurassic World has a 71%, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom has a 47%. So, according to the critics,
what does Jurassic World have?
It was a 71%, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, 71%. So, according to the critics, it goes Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
That is almost exact for me. I'd have to watch Jurassic Park 3 and see if I thought that it was better than Lost World or not, because otherwise, that's.
I can tell you right now, it's not.
I don't. We'll talk about Jurassic World when we do the podcast, but
it has got. I wasn't gonna do. I don't have Jurassic Park 3 on our schedule anytime soon, but now that I might have to move it up because I am very curious to hear what your thoughts are on that movie. If I recall, I don't want to go too far into Jurassic Park 3 here, but I rewatched Jurassic Park 3 within the last 5 years probably, and I think I remember thinking like, it's not as terrible as I once thought, but it's also just not a good movie.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I thought recently, because I think I've seen it within the past 5 years too, pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But after watching this, I was like, maybe Jurassic Park 3 is better.
No, it's not. So where were we, I guess? We were talking about...
Oh, no, we were talking about the toys.
Oh, yeah,
talking about the toys. Because of the vehicles during the chase scene.
Right.
So you were saying that you liked the different dinosaurs that they had, like the new dinosaurs that got saw.
Yeah, I did. I did appreciate that. I remember, I had a bunch of I had a ton of Jurassic Park merchandise, I guess, as a kid, and one of the things was trading cards, and there was a couple of trading cards that had some, I think, probably concept art type stuff, and it was some drawings of dinosaurs, and one of them was the whatever you said it was, Patasaurus or whatever. And I think there was like a quote from Steven Spielberg on the back saying, I really regret that we didn't get to... That he's actually... technically, those dinosaurs are in Jurassic Park. When Alan says, they're moving in herds. They do move in herds. Mm-hmm. You actually do see them. Oh, yeah, they are.
That's right.
But I think he said something to the effect of I wish we could have seen more of these dinosaurs in this movie, and I think he might have even said something like maybe in the next one or something like that. And so it wasn't totally surprising that he kind of put that, that dinosaur on display, because I think he kind of liked that dinosaur. Yeah. So it was kind of nice seeing some dinosaurs we didn't get to see in the first one. Right.
And then of course you saw dinosaurs that we did see, like they show the Triceratops again.
Yeah, which was actually, obviously in the first movie we saw a very still Triceratops. He was sick and on his side. They're on her side. I guess they were all female. And so in this one, we got to see one in action, really, rampaging through the camp of the InGen people, which I actually thought that was pretty cool. I like how that was kind of it wasn't a jump scare, but, it was like he's in the middle of talking and he says something about, I forget what the line is, but he, is talking about the amphitheater and bringing the people to the zoo and everything. And then that Triceratops just bursts through and wreaks havoc. I thought that was kind of cool.
So when the T-Rex comes into play, shortly
so it's actually
after,
it's right around. So Roland and Ajay, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah, it's
They
Ajay.
they have captured the baby T-Rex and they've chained it to a post, and they're waiting on the mama T-Rex to show up. And that's when Vince Vaughn and Sarah Harding let loose all the dinosaurs in the InGen camp. So then they kind of they actually have to jump out of the tree because there's a giant there's a vehicle flying through the air on fire, and it lands on the tree that they were kind of camping out in. And so then it shows Vince Vaughn go and rescue the baby T-Rex. And even Sarah is like, this is a terrible idea. But they end up taking it back to their camp into the trailer. And that's when the T-Rexes do finally show up looking for their baby.
And I there were a lot of moments in that quick scene where they're waiting for the T-Rexes to show up that I just thought were awful. Like, first of all, them coming in, and Ian's like obviously not happy, but he's just kind of like, no, don't do that. And they bring him in the table, they ignore him, and then like his daughter's there, like freaking out, like, I want to go to a safe spot. And he goes, well, what's wrong with this? Isn't this safe? It's not safe out there. And I'm thinking, they just brought an injured baby T-Rex inside, and you think it's safe in here? So anyway, but yeah, they eventually. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I suppose it's safer than being out there where the T-Rexes could just eat them, but.
Well, how about we just leave the baby T-Rex outside?
Well, I believe that was what he would prefer. But clearly they weren't listening to him. Yeah.
Well, Nick is a very... They mentioned in the movie at some point that he's like a part
of environmentalist.
Yes. Yeah. He's very into that, so he obviously wants to try to help this T-Rex. Mm-hmm. But then they go up in the the
high.
Yeah. And they have the phone to communicate.
Yeah, but they don't use it.
And they don't answer.
Well, Vince Vaughn does turn towards it, and Sarah Harding is like, hey, I need your hands over here. And so he turns away from it. Yeah, they don't answer the phone.
Right, which just drove me crazy because she's like, I need to put pressure for the blood. And I'm like, you have someone up in the high that's trying to contact you to let you know what's going on, and clearly they're not calling to chat, and you're going to ignore it so that you can put pressure on the leg. And then they call again, and they ignore it, and at this time Nick is not distracted because he's looking for something else, and the phone's just ringing right there, and then Ian comes down.
He actually comes in and he goes, would it hurt you to answer it once in a while?
Yeah, would it kill you to answer the phone for once? And
I do say, that's another line I love though, which is when he's up in the high with Kelly and Eddie, and I love Eddie. I want to talk about Eddie in a minute, but he goes, how do I get down from here? And he has him put on the harness, and he goes, the harder you squeeze, the slower you'll fall. And so he's like, all right, I got it. And he goes down, and you just hear him like crash through tree limbs and stuff. And Eddie goes, personally, I would have squeezed a little harder. I love that line. I thought that was always good. Eddie is played by Richard Schiff, who, have you ever watched The West Wing?
No.
He was on The West Wing, and he was awesome on The West Wing, and I think he's awesome in this. I think he's just a good actor, and I like him a lot in this, and it always makes me sad when he gets ripped in half by the two T-Rexes. But I just like his character, and I like another one of my favorite lines is his line where Ian is banging on the satellite phone, and he goes, violence and technology, not good bedfellows. I don't know, that line always kind of cracks me up too. Yeah. He just delivers those lines very well.
Speaking of him being ripped in half, that is one thing I distinctly remembered from seeing it in the theater for the first time, and I remember seeing him dangle there, and then seeing the second T-Rex get its attention and being like, no, please don't. And then it grabs it, and I'm like, they're gonna rip him in half, and it did, which it was fine because it wasn't as bad as I had it in my head. But
yeah, there's no blood in it.
Yeah,
they had to keep it PG-13, I guess. But still, I do feel very bad for Eddie in that moment.
Also, you have the I guess you'd call it the truck.
Like the two trailers.
Yeah, it's like the trailer truck.
Yeah.
And then it's hanging off the side, and Sarah falls and lands on the glass, which is very
Right.
suspenseful.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you noticed, but she does that, and Nick is the one that freaks out. And he's like, Sarah!
Right, yeah.
And Ian, he doesn't even say anything.
Ian's
He's
like,
just kind of looking around like,
you
oh.
good? You good down there?
He's very calm, and I felt like that was strange decision for the writing and directing, but
To have him, yeah, it would make
have
more
Nick
sense to
be
have
the one, like,
Ian be the one
yeah.
to call out. Yeah, I agree. I do like that scene a lot, though. It is very suspenseful, and I do love that the satellite phone falls and and
that's
Nick
the
is
thing
like,
that shatters. I
"What's
agree.
up?"
Yeah,
And it breaks. Yeah, there's a couple of notes I wrote for that scene because I really do like that scene, but it occurred to me this time that I said it's interesting that the T-Rexes they pushed one, like those trailers are connected. There's two trailers that are connected to each other, and they push one of them off the cliff, but leave the other one there, and then they apparently leave.
right.
And then they don't come back until Eddie has hooked the cable to the other trailer and is trying to like pull it up a little bit, and that's when they come back. And so I always thought it was kind of weird that they didn't just push both trailers off the cliff. So I thought that was interesting. And then the other note I wrote was Eddie gives them a rope, and he ties it around this tree, and the rope eventually comes loose as they're climbing up, and they fall. And when they fall, they catch themselves on that open window that has now broken. And if you look closely, you can totally tell that they are on like in harnesses because there's one of them, I feel like it's Malcolm, his body just doesn't fall. It's like he catches the lip wherever, whatever the window ledge is, and his legs kind of stay in the air almost. It's weird. I was curious why they kind of left that cut in. Maybe it was the best cut they had, or the take, I mean, but it's just their bodies kind of defy physics there. They don't all fall. It's because obviously the harnesses where they were in, kind of caught their bodies. I didn't know, it's weird. They almost kind of hover there. It's bizarre.
Mm-hmm. I wrote down a line that I didn't like during that scene too, which was where Eddie was like asking what they needed.
Oh, and the hamburger line?
And they go, rope. And he goes, anything else? And then Ian's like, 3 double cheeseburgers. And then Nick goes, no onions on mine. And then Sarah's like, and an apple turnover.
Yeah.
And they're all hanging there. I was just, to me, that reminded, I figured, because when we did the Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that line when Flash was doing the job interview, and
Right.
you were like, "John's not gonna like this." And when I heard that, I was like, Justin probably said the same thing for this, and he's right.
It's funny.
I also wrote down that the mud traction to be able to pull the trailers back up is beyond impossible. There's no way that those tires would have had any traction on the amount of mud and rain that was.
Right,
coming,
and Eddie's car is like sliding back and forth, which I kind of like. I like the visual of that, but agree, I don't. Obviously, it's a losing battle.
There's no traction,
right,
at all. Yeah.
The other thing that kind of annoys, or it's just it doesn't annoy me terribly, but it's just a slight pet peeve, maybe, or maybe nitpicky, is one of the last times they cut to Eddie as he's like trying to back this trailer up. He's sitting there with his arm like on the open window, and he's got like one arm or one hand on the steering wheel, and he just looks very like just chill. It's just like, and he's just trying to back this thing up. It's right before the T-Rexes show up, and I always remember just thinking like, you'd think Spielberg or somebody would have been like, make it look like you're in a little bit more stress than you are, because it looks like he's on just a lazy drive.
I wonder if Spielberg was like having to be kind of pulled around on different projects, because this was the same year. No, never mind. He did Schindler's List in 93, but he did do Amistad around this time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So he was like doing a lot.
Schindler's List, he actually started. He gave over post-production duties to George Lucas to oversee Jurassic Park. When he started doing Schindler's List. But with this movie, I don't know. I have read a quote from him where he says that the movies where he felt very confident
Yeah.
were the ones that he kind of failed on. And I know he was referring to this movie because he had done Jurassic Park 1, so doing Jurassic Park 2, he's like, okay, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And he kind of talks about how the movies where he feels a little bit, a little nervous or unsure or kind of scared about doing are the movies that he ends up doing better on. Right. So I think he just maybe was a little overconfident with directing this movie, and
I think
maybe
if you're not as confident, working on something, you're going to be a little bit more nitpicky, and you're also going to be probably holding back some of the good stuff that you would have done. Right. And when you think that everyone's going to love it, you're like, we can just leave that because it'll be fine.
This movie's going to make $1 bajillion. It'll be great.
Yeah. And it's Jurassic Park 2. Like, they're not going to dislike it. It's dinosaurs. I don't know. But you like the movie, so.
I do like the movie. Obviously, I guess I fall into one of the 51% or whatever it is of critics that liked it. I do like the movie. I think, obviously, like I said, and maybe part of it is nostalgia, because like I said, I saw this movie when I was 13. I saw it a couple times in the theater. I don't know. There's just a lot about it that I like. There's more that I like about it than I dislike about it, I guess. But there are things I dislike about it, whereas there's virtually nothing I dislike about the first one.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
I cannot think of any, I can't think of anything in the first movie I didn't like. That movie was perfect.
Yeah.
And that might also be... So I actually thought about this, and I was like, am I going to give this movie a little bit more of a star or liking because it's Jurassic Park, and therefore because it's a Jurassic Park movie, I'm like, well, I'll give it some slack. But then I was like, but wait a minute. Also, it's a Jurassic Park movie, so I'm going to be more critical because I want it to be good, so it kind of cancels itself out.
Yeah, I can see that. I wrote, my next note is something that actually kind of bothered me. And I think part of the, it kind of goes with what you were saying about Nick and Sarah in the trailer not answering the phone, that type of stuff. It's just like, for having these very smart characters, they do a lot of dumb stuff in the movie. And one of the things I wrote was, Sarah, you would think Sarah, being this paleontologist, scientist, person, would know, or would just even think that the blood on her jacket, which is not drying, according to her, would attract predators.
And I thought that too, and I was like, why would? But then again, I would think she probably wants to be able to save it.
Her jacket?
And and be like,
maybe it's her lucky
dinosaur
jacket.
Blood.
Well, that's true too. Maybe she had that thought. But obviously,
I was thinking,
terrible decision.
Well, you're right. It's not dry, but I don't know. Because I thought that too, and I was trying to. That was one of the moments where I was trying to maybe excuse some things in the movie, and I was like, I guess it's not necessarily guaranteed that it would attract predators. Like, obviously, they focused on it in the movie, so we thought about it. But I don't know if we were on an island and I had blood on me, I'd be like, oh gosh, the T-Rexes are going to smell this and they're going to come after me. I don't know. I don't know if I would have thought about that if it hadn't been focused on like they did in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Maybe you're right. Maybe, she does have a lot on her mind. They are basically running for their lives, so maybe it wasn't a thought. But Roland does come up to her and is like, are you injured? And they flat out talk about the blood on her jacket. So you would think maybe
it's very obvious.
You'd think maybe then she would be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be wearing this. But clearly not.
But I think they were trying to point that out to the audience and make it like, ooh, she didn't take off her jacket. Like the dinosaurs are going to be coming for her. Like it was intentional. So
I don't think they even would have needed to do that really, because I think if you just showed her with that blood on her jacket and then had, you see she kind of hangs it from like a line in the tent, like right above their heads. You could have just had that and shown the T-Rex poking his head in the tent and smelling the jacket. I think that would have been enough. But I do like the scene where the T-Rex shows up in the middle of the night. And I will say, though, that I think they kind of Malcolm does say, nobody move, don't run. But they don't really ever talk about the T-Rex's vision like they do in the first movie where, his vision is based on movement, or her vision is based on movement. Because that was one of the things is like, obviously that's not true. I think they made that up for Jurassic Park. And so...
Oh, yeah.
The T-Rex is they wouldn't even technically see the trailer where the baby T-Rex was because that trailer's not moving. Now, they might have seen the movement inside the trailer a little bit, but it's things like that. Like, everybody's sleeping in that camp. They wouldn't be able to see them. But they do talk about in the movie, too, about how the T-Rex's sense of smell is like the second best out of all the species of animals or something.
He's not sticking his head in there because he knows there's people. He's trying to figure out
he's smelling the blood,
where that smell's coming from, and he's going straight to the source.
Right.
And then, I don't remember who it was that screams, is one of the guys, but he sees it and just obviously...
it was Carter, I think is what his name was. Yeah.
Yeah. And just starts
Freaks
screaming.
Out. Everybody runs, yeah. And then there's that waterfall scene where they kind of hide in the waterfall, and I don't like the tongue part. That was a little weird. The T-Rex is kind of sticking his snout in the waterfall, and he can't.
He's like, I want to taste you.
Yeah, it was a little weird. But
it was really cool. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that scene where the paleontologist, his name's Burke, ends up kind of freaking out with the snake and goes, and the T-Rex picks him up, and the blood comes down the waterfall. That's the other scene that I remember from the first book. There's a scene with a waterfall just like that where the guy gets eaten and blood runs down the water of the waterfall and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was another one that they were like, interesting. Maybe we should put this in the second movie or something.
Yeah. I did definitely felt the suspense on that though, because the T-Rex is right there, and I remember thinking, one, how lucky they were that his head couldn't go any further.
Couldn't fit there, yeah.
But how crazy it would have been to be just standing there with this T-Rex, literally where you could touch it. His teeth are going, but it's like a dog on a leash. That's just right there, and you can't. So
yeah,
it almost would have been a little bit kind of cool to experience, but also terrifying.
Right, yeah, terrifying, but right. Well, I think we should probably fast forward a little bit and talk about San Diego because we're running out of time here. And so one of the things that I consider a big plot hole in this film, and I tried to do a little research on it, was the fact that the entire crew of the boat that the T-Rex was on, the boat that's bringing the T-Rex to San Diego, everybody on that boat has died. Basically, I think there might be one person that was survived because he was able to tell Sarah Harding and Ian Malcolm how they gave the T-Rex tranquilizer and stuff.
Ridiculously stupid. I hated the fact that the boat showed up with everyone dead. I thought it was.
Oh well, I love the scene of the boat coming. When the guy, you see it on the radar and the boat just is kind of very quickly moving towards the harbor, and then you see Peter Ludlow walk outside, and it's just very foggy, and all of a sudden the boat kind of comes into view, and it's just going real fast. I love that shot, and I love the shot of the boat running into the dock and all that. I think that's very cool. The question I have is, how did all those people die? And when I looked it up, it just doesn't make sense to me. But according to what I looked up, it said that the idea was the T-Rex got out of its containment, which it shows that, you see the cage that it was in when Ian and them are getting helicoptered off the island. You see the T-Rex in that T-Rex cage, I guess, and that's empty on the boat. So I guess the idea was it got out of its containment, went around the boat and ate everybody. And then as it got down into the holding area, somebody was able to kind of lock him. Is it her or him? I can't remember if it's the mom or the dad. But lock it down there, and then he died. As he was locking the T-Rex down in the holding area. I just don't, there's no evidence really. You would, especially the bridge. You see the hand, that severed hand on the wheel.
Which is really dumb too. Because what was he do? Just I'm going to keep steering the ship no matter what, and then his arm gets bit.
It's a cool visual, but you're right. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
But there's also no way. I mean, the T-Rex is huge. You would think he would have made damage, like sticking his head into the
totally.
doorway to get into the bridge or something like that. There's none of that. No visual evidence that T-Rex went around the boat eating people. So for some reason, I had always had it in my brain that there was like a deleted scene or something of a velociraptor being on that boat. Like a velociraptor had gotten onto the boat before it had set sail, and the velociraptor was the one that wreaked havoc around the boat. And that actually makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
But we never see that, and it's never explained really. So you kind of have to assume it was the T-Rex. It's just it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, you have already said that you hate pretty much the entire last section of this movie with the San Diego
Yeah, we've
stuff.
already gotten into parts of like it's awful.
But I do. That's funny. I like it a lot. I like seeing. I love that shot of the T-Rex kind of standing on the bank, and you see like kind of the San Diego skyline behind him, and he roars. And I also like seeing him stomping down the street, hitting the bus, and he eats that one guy right as that guy's trying to go into a store or something. That guy, by the way, who gets eaten is the writer. That was David Koepp. He had a little cameo. I did write my note though, because the T-Rex does eat the dog, and so I said, "Do people dislike this movie because the T-Rex eats the dog?" You know, I was like, maybe that's why.
It was pretty rough because you see that because it wouldn't have been as hard, if you had just seen the chain hanging there, but they showed the dog.
Right.
And they show him like trying to protect, the family, and then he like gets scared and goes in his house. And then the next thing we see is the house dangling from the T-Rex's mouth.
Yep.
With a chain. Yeah, him running through the city and like he's eating dogs and people, and I'm like, how, like I would imagine after one human, he's like pretty good for at least a day.
Right, they even say that about Eddie. And granted, Roland, who knows how much Roland actually knows about tyrannosaurs, but he was saying something about how they had just fed, so they probably wouldn't be tracking them.
Yeah.
And Ian gets on.
And now he's going around
eating everything. In San Diego. Well, I was just gonna say, Ian gets on to Roland about he's like, just fed. That was our friend Eddie. Have a little respect, type of thing. But yeah, no, you're right. He eats. He ate the dog, and then he eats the guy, and he's obviously...
And he's still looking for food.
Right.
Or is he... and that's another thing I hated, was they're like, how are we going to fix this problem? Let's get the baby and lure him with the baby. Like, also, who's the nephew of...
Hammond? Peter Ludlow.
Peter.
Yeah.
So, like... You have this moment where after the boat crashes and Peter's like stunned.
Yeah.
And he's just staring and there's a couple moments where Ian comes up and like is trying to like talk to him, but you can just see that Peter's
like
just
almost in shock kind of, yeah.
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 And I remember thinking he's acting like he just made the decision to like drop a nuke. Like you have a loose T-Rex on the shore. Call the Coast Guard. We have a giant T-Rex. Remember that guy you saw on TV? Ian?
Yeah, by the way,
Dr. Ian Malcolm?
He was right. I know we spent a lot of money and everything saying he was crazy, but... Yeah, can you imagine him calling the Coast Guard and be like, there's a giant T-Rex on the loose? He would get hung up on.
They're like, sir... You tried this on live television. Everyone laughed at you. We're not doing this.
We've told you to stop calling this number.
But I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's like almost like if they don't get the baby and lure the T-Rex away from the city, that the entire world, it's almost like a world destruction like moment where Peter, like just the way Peter's acting is just like, I've destroyed the world.
Right.
And it's not even close to that.
What's crazy, too, is he goes from that to the next time we see him, he's on the phone and he's saying to shoot the T-Rex. He's like, no, not the baby. I want the baby alive. So it's like he still hasn't really learned his lesson.
Yeah.
He's still going to...
And that reminded me of Hammond at the beginning of the movie. Where Hammond's like, I'm sending people to the island just to research.
Runs in the family, I guess, yeah.
I didn't like it.
My big complaint about this, one of the San Diego scenes was like, he tells them where the infant is. He's like, it's in our facility, and they go, where is it? And you see them drive in, and it's like in the amphitheater, which I really liked seeing. I liked seeing like the half-built Jurassic Park amphitheater, which was supposedly John Hammond's kind of original idea.
Right.
I thought that was cool. But I don't like that, like, they pull in, and it looks almost like this abandoned kind of warehouse, and there's this baby T-Rex sitting there in a cage with nobody around. Like, it just seems like there would be scientists, or there would be, I don't know, somebody watching it. And granted, there's a security guard that comes up and, like, points the gun at them, saying, telling them to get out or leave the baby or whatever, and Malcolm is like, shoot us if you want to stop us or whatever. But it just seemed weird that like they put this baby dinosaur in this cage, and then they were like, all right, everybody, it's quitting time.
Right.
They all just
not
left.
to mention, I'm pretty sure they would have shot them.
Right.
He's like,
right.
shoot us then. They're like, yeah, you're taking baby T-Rex that.
Yeah. So yeah, I will admit this movie has problems. Although I think you're going to be shocked at my rating, by the way. But I think we should go ahead and get into the ratings, and I'd love to hear what you. I'd love to hear how many stars you give it. Yeah, go for it.
So watching this movie made me realize that I want to start getting harsher on my rating. This might be the lowest rating I've ever done.
Oh, wow.
Which, maybe not, because we did Punisher, the original from the 90s. But I'm wondering, too, if I were to go back and do a lot of our other ones, if I would have given some of those that I gave a lower rating, if I would have gone even lower. Because
Gotcha.
I was originally going to give this movie a rating, and I was like, no, I'm going to be flat out harsh and give it what I want to. And by the time the credits came up, I was like, man, it deserves it. So I give this movie 1.5 stars out of 5.
Wow. That hurts my heart. Not really. I mean, if this was the first Jurassic Park, it would hurt my heart. But I mean, I get it. And a lot of the stuff that you complained about are totally valid. And I think that my rating, which is going to be significantly higher, and it's probably going to shock you as to how high it is maybe it's purely nostalgia. I don't know. I feel pretty nostalgic about this film. Not obviously as nostalgic as I do of the first film. But for me, there's a lot about this movie that I still really enjoy, and I can look past the terrible gymnastics stuff to enjoy it. So for me, I give this movie 4 out of 5 stars.
That's about what I thought you were going to.
Yeah.
Just based on knowing the love.
Yeah.
Not based on an accurate rating, because that's not accurate at all, but
right. I have
just
always
kidding.
Said,
just kidding.
It's totally fine. I have always said that this movie is a fun monster movie, and that's kind of how I see it. The first movie is this great kind of adventure, exciting dinosaur whatever movie, but this movie I feel like Spielberg kind of set out to make a monster movie. And I think he did. Maybe he wasn't completely successful, but I think he did do a pretty decent job of it. I think some of the suspenseful stuff is suspenseful. I will say that most of this movie takes place at night.
I was just
first
thinking
movie had
that.
a lot more kind of daylight stuff, and I think that makes it a little bit more exciting too. But I think maybe that goes into the whole monster movie aspect. Maybe he was, wanted to do a lot of it at night. I do want to say real quick before we wrap up, I brought this up at the beginning and I actually didn't talk about it. This is how it dawned on me while watching it that my memory of seeing it the second time in the theater was because I don't know if I saw it by myself the first time or if I just saw it like with my dad or something. But my mom came with us to see it the second time. And that scene where Sarah and Kelly are digging, they're like in the building, the raptors are trying to get in. Malcolm, I think, is in the car and the raptor's like trying to push his face through the window. Sarah and Kelly are digging, and Sarah like puts her head under, and she's like, "Okay, it's clear." And then Kelly goes to go under, and that raptor comes down. It's kind of a jump scare. It obviously doesn't scare. It doesn't. It's coming, so it's not nearly as like jump scary anymore. But I remember when I saw that in the theater, my mom was sitting right next to me, and she about flew out of her seat. It was a successful jump scare for my mom.
They missed a grand opportunity there, by the way.
Did they?
Because Oh wait, Ian wasn't in yet.
Not
But
yet.
Sarah was there, and she saw it. And when that happened, when the Velociraptor pops its head underneath the door, they should have had Sarah look at it and just go, "Clever girl."
Clever girl. Yeah. That actually would have been cringe.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. So, yeah, pretty much hate the movie.
Cool. Pretty much love the movie.
That's good.
We'd love to know what you think, though, about The Lost World Jurassic Park. Do you love it? Do you side with me or do you side with John? That's what we want to know. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can leave us a comment there. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. You can tweet at us or you can comment on our Instagram. Both handles are Cinema Heroes. And if, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.
So what did you think of Hammond and his plan to sorry.
I was about to say, it really sounded like you were peeing into something right then. So I was like, maybe you should get a clean take of audio there.
Yeah.